Hi, I'm Sarah Merrick, founder and CEO of Ripple. This is a webinar following the launch of our very first wind farm earlier this week, and it's for our pre-registered customers. Now, I actually forgot to record this last night, so this is just the beginning, so you might notice a bit of continuity problems with it, but just because you wanted everyone to be able to see the whole thing, so I'm having to re-record the first bits. But I'll just go through it as I presented it yesterday. So Ripple is a clean energy ownership platform. Our mission is to make clean energy ownership affordable and accessible to everyone, everywhere. And our first wind farm, Greg Vather, is the very first step in us making that a reality. Now, we launched our first wind farm, which is Greg Vather, earlier this week. It's going to be the first ever wind farm to be owned by the consumers that it actually supplies. So this means that you can own a tiny bit of Greg Vather and you get the electricity that it generates supplied to your home via the grid. It's just a single turbine, it's 2.5 megawatts. It's located in South Wales, just sort of northwest of Cardiff. It can supply enough electricity to around 2,500, just under 2,500 households. And people can become members of Greg Vather for as little as £250. And that could, if you own it, £250 worth, it's roughly enough to supply around sort of 15% of a typical household's electricity consumption each year for its 25-year lifetime. And so what we're going to do is fill the project up, get all of it bought by customers, and then build the wind farm, and it will become operational. It's due to become operational in spring 2021. So we've had, the aim of this webinar is to answer people's questions that we've had on Ripple, sort of how it works, how they get savings. So I'm just going to go through individually. These are actual questions that we've had from customers, so I'll just go through them individually. We get sort of very, very similar questions, so we're assuming if, you know, we want people to understand, so we can just share it with you now, and then everyone can see what the answers are. So the first question is, how does this work with Octopus Energy? So Octopus Energy, Co-op Energy powered by Octopus Energy, is Ripple's exclusive supply partner for this very first wind farm. Octopus essentially buys the electricity from the wind farm and supplies it to your homes via the grid. Now, in order to take part of Ripple, you need to be on a co-op supported, an Octopus supported electricity tariff. I'll go into that a bit more later on. But essentially, Octopus takes the electricity from the wind farm and supplies it to your home. Ripple is not an electricity supplier, so we don't do that bit. We partner with suppliers, and they do that bit for us. Now, so in terms of our relationship with Octopus, as I said, you need to be on an Octopus-supported tariff in order to get the savings from your wind farm applied to your bill. Now, Octopus has a number of different brands that it supports and manages. Obviously, the first one is its own Octopus Energy brand. Also, Co-op Energy, Effect Energy, London Power, and M&S Energy. If you're already on one of these tariffs, you don't have to do anything. You can just stay on your existing tariff, and your savings will simply be applied to your bill when the wind farm starts operating. If you're not on one of those tariffs, you'll need to switch to a Co-op Energy tariff, and you can do this as part of the sign-up process. You don't need to go and do away. You don't have to go and go away and do it now. As part of the sign-up process, you can just switch. You choose which Co-op tariff you want to go on, and we simply switch you to it as part of the sign-up. You will also be able to access Octopus Agile and Octopus Go tariffs. However, to do that, you need to first switch to a Co-op Energy tariff, and then you can switch from there. And both Agile and Go require secure smart meters. There's currently, because of coronavirus, there's currently a delay in getting those smart meters installed. So you would be on a Co-op Energy tariff until your smart meter was ready to go. So the savings that you make are essentially the market price for electricity, and we will do it on an annual price. So the price of electricity goes up and down every half hour. Again, just to make this first project as simple as possible, we have got an annual electricity price from Octopus. Sorry, I just got some questions there, I think. We've got an annual electricity price. So basically the difference between that annual electricity price and the operating cost of the wind farm, that is your saving on a sort of per kilowatt hour of generation basis. So your saving per month is simply that saving multiplied by how much your share of the wind farm generated the previous month. So there's no link to how much electricity you use. Your saving is purely derived by the market price for electricity and the wind farm's operating costs multiplied by your share of the wind farm's generation the previous month. Now, if anyone has any questions, obviously all the way through, please do ask. And this is being recorded. Actually, I've only just started recording it for YouTube, so it will be available on YouTube in a day or so. So another question that we get a lot is, do you get free electricity by owning part of a wind farm? Now, obviously, the wind farm itself there's no fuel costs, but there are other running costs that it has, and they need to be paid for. And as I said, obviously your electricity bill also, the electricity is only actually one part of your electricity bill. It's roughly sort of 30 or 40% of your bill. The rest are things like grid charges, taxes, levies, and the supplier costs. So you still need to pay all of those. So you do not get free electricity. So here you can see a typical bill would be grid charges, supplier costs and taxes and levies, and then obviously the electricity part. With Ripple, you still pay exactly the same grid charges, exactly the same supplier costs, exactly the same taxes and levies. The saving that you make is on the electricity part of your electricity bill. And broadly, if your generation from your wind farm is the same as your consumption, instead of that electricity element being your consumption multiplied by the wholesale price, it becomes your consumption multiplied by the operating cost of the wind farm, which is low and stable. So you still have an electricity bill. Don't be under any illusions about that, but lots of people do assume that because there's no fuel for the wind farm, that they don't have to pay an electricity bill. You will still have an electricity bill, and going back to this chart, assuming the market price for electricity is above the wind farm's operating costs, there would be a saving as a result of that. So another question that we get quite a lot of is, what if I use less electricity than my bit of the wind farm generates? Now, we're being really flexible in terms of how much people can own. So you don't have to own enough of the wind farm to generate 100% of your electricity. You can own as little as £250 worth, which is very, very roughly around sort of 12-13% of a typical home's electricity needs. So you can just own a tiny bit of the wind farm. Obviously, that share of the wind farm wouldn't generate a huge amount of electricity, so your savings wouldn't be very large, and the maximum you can own is 120% of your annual electricity needs. So, but because the savings are driven by how much your bit of the wind farm generates rather than how much you use, it doesn't really matter whether you use a bit more or a bit less. Your savings remain the same according to how much you actually own. So if your bit of the wind farm does actually generate more than you consume, which would be, that happen both in real times and potentially over the longer term as well, that electricity, it gets supplied to another customer. Octopus has still effectively bought that electricity from the wind farm at a lower price than the market price. That's your electricity. So you get the savings because that's your electricity. So the savings are applied to your bill, but the actual electricity has gone to somebody else. So it just doesn't matter whether you use the electricity or somebody else uses electricity. In real time, there will be a lot of times where in real time the electricity is going to somebody else, but you still get the savings from your share of the wind farm. That's really, really important. And then what if you use, obviously the flip side of that is, what if I use more electricity than the wind farm generates? So maybe you only own as much of the wind farm as would generate, say, 10% or 20% of your electricity, annual electricity needs. You would get the savings from that 10 or 20%, whatever the generation is from that part of the wind farm. Obviously, those savings would be lower than if you owned as much to cover 100%. But effectively, the savings are not dependent on your how much electricity you use. So how much electricity you use, that sets what your bill is. If your bill in any one month, say, was £60, and the savings from your electricity from your wind farm were £10, the savings would be £10 whether your bill was £70 or £60, because the savings are driven by your generation, not how much electricity you use, essentially. And then another question that we've had quite a lot of is, do I have to switch electricity supplier? Obviously, you have to be on an Octopus supported tariff in order to get the benefits of your wind farm ownership. If you are already on a Octopus tariff, obviously there's no need to switch. You can carry on being on whichever tariff you're already on. If you're not on a Octopus supported tariff, you need to switch to a co-op energy tariff, and we do this as part of the sign up process. You don't need to go away and switch yourself. As part of the sign up process, you can choose which tariff you want to switch to, which co-op energy tariff you want to switch to, and we simply switch you to it as part of the sign up process. Another question that we've had a lot, obviously there are lots of fixed term, fixed price contracts in the market. If you are on a fixed term contract, so say your tariff, you're locked in until November, we are looking at ways of potentially postponing people's switches. So at the moment you would have to switch today when you're joining the wind farm. We are looking at ways of enabling people to postpone the switch. It may not be possible to get that implemented for this project, so it may be that you have to wait until the next project, by which point you can sort of say, okay, I'll join the co-op and buy my share of the wind farm today, but I will postpone my switch until my fixed term contract is finished in December or whenever it would be. So we're working really hard to try and make that happen for this project, but in all likelihood it won't be possible for this time, but we are do keep an eye on the website, and we'll obviously, if we do manage to get it sorted out in time, we'll let everyone know, because this is something that quite a few customers have come up against, because fixed price contracts are obviously so common in the market. If we do manage to get that implemented for this project, the switch would have to happen before the wind farm starts operating in any case. So if we're expecting the wind farm to start operating in February next year. So if you had a fixed price contract which was going to run until April 2021, you wouldn't be able to defer your switch until April 2021. You'd have to have switched by the time the wind farm starts operating. So yeah, we're working on a solution to this, but even if we do manage to implement that solution in time, you would have to switch before the wind farm starts operating. So like I said, sort of February time. Another question is, what happens if I move house? So if you move house, so Ripple is really flexible and really portable. So it works anywhere in Great Britain. So Wales, England and Scotland is fine. It doesn't work in Northern Ireland because there's a different electricity market in Northern Ireland. But if you move anywhere, provided you have an electricity supply, you don't move to a canal boat or something, provided you remain within Great Britain, you can just simply, as you would with any other tariff, you simply phone up your supplier or Octopus or Co-op and say, I've moved house, and they will simply supply it to your new house. It's really portable. Obviously, if you move outside of Great Britain, you wouldn't be able to get your benefits from the wind farm, and you would effectively sort of terminate your membership of the co-op, and then you'd have to go through the termination process, and you'd basically apply to withdraw your shares. And I'll explain that now. So if you move to America, saying you don't need electricity in the UK anymore, you can apply to withdraw your shares. You cannot sell your shares because it's a co-op, so the shares are non-transferable, but they are withdrawable. So what you can do, let's see. What you can do is, you can, yes, so you can apply to withdraw your shares, and we will keep a list of people who, maybe they only bought enough to cover 50% of their consumption, and they actually want to now cover 100%, or they covered 100% and they've now just bought an electric vehicle and their consumption has gone up. They can apply to be on a waiting list for additional shares. So then if somebody comes along and says, okay, I don't need my shares in the wind farm anymore because I'm about to move to America, they can apply to withdraw their shares. We will then go to the people on the waiting list and say, okay, this 1,000 watts has come up, and somebody can say, okay, yeah, I want 500 watts of those, and then you get your the person that's leaving, going to America, would get the digressed value of those shares back. So say they paid £1,000 when they bought those shares, the shares are repaid. The cohort will aim to repay them 5% per year. So after 10 years, the shares would be worth 50% of what they started at. So they would get their £500 back minus a sort of £50 admin fee, basically. So they would get their £500 back or £450 back, and then the new person buying the equivalent shares would buy them for £500 for the same number of shares. Just let somebody else in. And another question that we've had is, can I buy shares for somebody else? So you can't buy shares for somebody else, because as part of the sign up process, you have to declare that you are the named person on that utility bill, and you have to agree to the customer agreement. Obviously, you can't do that on somebody else's behalf. So we have to have the person that's signing up has to be the person who will be the member of the co-op, basically. We are, however, looking at a gift scheme. So again, it won't be for this project. So this grandfather is our first ever project. It is, we've tried to make it as simple as possible. So there are lots of other things, quite whiz-bang things that we can do with it, but they're not going to be in place for this project. So what we're looking at is for something like a gift scheme, where somebody could say, for Christmas, I'd like a wind farm, put it on their Christmas list, and then people can contribute towards that for Christmas or for a wedding or for a big birthday or something. And then at the end of Christmas or the end of your wedding, you may have enough of a wind farm to supply your, new home or whatever. But that's not going to be possible for this wind farm. So there are things like that we're looking at, but yeah, when we've had some questions from people saying, can they do that? Obviously, it would be a fantastic gift, but you just can't do it for this one. But we are looking into how we can make that possible for later projects, essentially. And then we're also, again, this is not for now, this is just a sort of sneak peek into where we are planning on going with the technology behind Ripple. So what we want to do is develop an app. On that app, a bit like if you've got solar panels on your roof, you'll be able to see what your bit of the wind farm is generating in real time, and then provided you have a smart meter, and again, this will just evolve over time. We're not going to have it exactly the finished product on day one, but you'll be able to, or we want you to be able to see what you're using in real time, so then you can get the idea of there being an energy balance. So you can see if your bit of the wind farm is generating more than you're using, or if you're using more than you're generating. And then we want to integrate with smart energy technologies. So we've already got a memorandum of understanding in place with EV Energy. They're a bit of software that can help you optimize when you charge your car, essentially. So potentially you might be able to charge your car, or schedule charging your car when your wind farm's operating at high output, and also with SunAmp, which is a heat battery company. So again, you might be able to fill your heat battery up, replace your central heating with an electric heat battery, and fill it up again to fit in and schedule that for when it fits best with the wind farm. Another thing that I should add as well, which I've just remembered, is you can also buy bits of different projects. So this grandfather is our very first project. We are planning more projects later. So we're planning, we're looking at sort of solar parks, wind farms, potentially even sort of offshore wind farms in the longer term once the costs come down. So you can effectively, on this app here, on this app, instead of that being wind farm, that would be your green generation, and you would simply have it stacked up. So you might have a bit of it would be from your solar park, a bit of it would be from your wind farm, a bit of it would be from your offshore wind farm. So it would just show all of your green electricity from wherever, whichever projects you own, you would get, that would just be shown on your app, essentially. So, but again, this is for the longer term. This is not going to be happening in the next 6 months, basically. So I think that's it for now. Also, we've just, the wind farm we've launched it to our pre-registered customers, which all of you will be pre-registered customers. We are planning on launching it publicly in the next few days. So at that point, everyone, you'll be able to access the wind farm, the website from just the regular ripplenergy.com link. At the moment, you have to use the link that we sent you in your in the email that you got. There's one today and one a couple of days ago. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you about what excites you about Ripple, what you're most looking forward to, because yeah, we just want to share it with as many people as possible. So I'm just going to I've got quite a few questions here, so I'll answer these questions in turn. I'll try and group them if there are if I've got solar already and receive if you've got solar already on your roof and you receive feed-in tariff payments, can I move all of that to the co-op, or do I need to retain that with my current energy supplier? If you could email us, we're looking at that. We think you can. The FIT payments should be completely separate, and they're dealt with completely separately. So, but if you could email us to confirm, that would be great. We haven't got any plans to do sort of door-to-door selling of the co-op. Partly there are, we need to make sure that everything that we say is very transparent and clear, and that people understand it. So, and we've had to make it very clear in the sign-up process exactly what the risks are, exactly what the benefits are, and how it works. And that would be difficult to get across on a sort of door-to-door basis. I would like to know how the smart metering works with existing solar, and how to have separate investments in a second property. So, so the smart metering at the moment, there's no link between your actual usage and your billing or anything, unless obviously if you're on an agile tariff, there would be. But in terms of how Ripple works, there's no sort of financial benefit from being in balance initially. That's something that we're looking at in future. So there wouldn't be initially there wouldn't be sort of a link, and we would have to work out the sort of commercial arrangements with that. So development costs seem high. What comfort can investors take that the all-in cost is at market? So I mean, we've discussed the project with the co-op directors. So the co-op is separate to Ripple. There are 4 directors of the co-op that we've been planning the project with, and yeah, it's sort of quite transparent in terms of the costs for that. Presumably the operating costs will vary over time, and I assume including with labour and repair maintenance costs. Are you showing a flat line? How does that work? So yeah, the costs will go up over the long term. It was just to show that the operating costs of the wind farm are incredibly stable compared to the volatile wholesale electricity price, basically. Question: how do the standing charges of the suppliers compare with the market? So essentially with Ripple, you will be on whatever co-op tariff you choose. So obviously your bill will be the standing charge plus your energy charge. So we don't have any influence over what your tariff is in terms of how much your energy charge is and how much your standing charge is. With Ripple, it's about the saving, and it's the saving is, as I've explained, the difference between the market price and the operating cost of the wind farm multiplied by your share of the generation. So it doesn't affect what your standing charge is. It won't affect what your sort of gross energy charge is, but it's whatever your bill would be. Your savings are applied to that monthly bill. So if you're on an agile tariff, it might be whatever, £70. If you're on a fixed rate tariff, it might be £65. If your saving for the wind farm is £10, that £10 would be applied whether you're on the agile at 65 or 70 or the other one at 65. Says, I'm with Octopus fixed but not Go or Agile. Is that okay to start with whilst I wait a smart meter? So with Ripple, you do not need a smart meter for Ripple to work, essentially. If you wanted to go on to Go and Agile, that's when you need to have a secure smart meter. But for Ripple to work, you do not need a smart meter. So as I said, because there isn't a link between your consumption and your savings are purely driven by how much your share of the wind farm is generated each month. We know that. We can get that from basically the meter that's at the wind turbine. We just tell Octopus each month how much you need to save, and that gets applied to your bill, whatever that bill is, given your consumption. But we don't sort of we don't need to see what your consumption is. We don't need to see what your bill would have been. We just tell Octopus, customer A needs to save £12.50, customer B needs to save £10.80, whatever it would be. We don't see what your consumption is. Obviously, when we want to integrate the smart tech, that is when that would happen. But there wouldn't necessarily initially be a bill impact on that. So somebody's just responded about the Octopus Go. No, so if you're on an Octopus Go tariff with a smart meter, you don't have to move to a co-op tariff. So if whatever Octopus supported tariff you are on now, you can stay on that tariff. You don't need to switch. However, if you're not on a Octopus, Marks and Spencer's, Effect or London tariff, then you would have to switch to a co-op energy tariff. But if you're an existing Octopus customer, you don't have to switch. What will happen to the LX sale cost price next year? Will it always be an annual fixed price? So the electricity price at which your savings are calculated against is an annual price. So that is it's determined every year. Obviously, some years it will be low, some years it will be high, and at the moment it is low, partly because of coronavirus has led to a reduction in electricity demand across the whole country. So electricity prices are depressed at the moment, and as a result, the electricity price that the wind farm is getting is relatively low, because that's what the wholesale price is low. But essentially, it will be adjusted on an annual basis. So it says, another question, UK energy supply market is a basket case. The only way to get good value is to continually change supplier. Even if we assume the tariffs on offer are good now, there's no guarantee they will remain so, or will Ripple guarantee only to partner with energy providers whose tariffs will always be the cheapest in the market. So what we're doing is, as I said, at the moment we have an exclusive partnership with Octopus for this first project. We plan to partner with a number of different supply partners. So we're saying up to 8. We're doing this because we want our customers to not be, locked into one supplier for the 25-year lifetime of the wind farm. We want them to be able to continually, like any other customers can, switch supplier. Now, we're not going to be working with every single supplier in the market, so we couldn't guarantee that they will always be the cheapest, quartile in the market, but we want to have a range of suppliers in our sort of pool of suppliers. Customers will be able to switch between suppliers within that pool, but we want to have a good, a good range of different suppliers there, because I like switching electricity supply. Everyone, it's something that consumers in the UK are so used to doing it, and obviously that does drive fantastic customer service. We didn't want it was really important that we didn't want our customers to be locked into a single supplier for the long term. That's not good for anyone, really. So so people will be able to switch with so the arrangement with Octopus means that you'll be able to switch after a year after the wind farm starts operating, essentially. They've got a question about the capital returns. So so effectively what happens, people buy shares in the co-op, so they're putting in share capital into the co-op. Now, part of your saving is return of that share capital. So we don't want to, if we didn't return any share capital at the end of the wind farm's life, you would, members would quite rightly expect their share capital back again. So basically what happens is the co-op aims to repay up to 5% share capital each year. So that then means that over the course of 20 years, the share capital would have been completely repaid, so there wouldn't be any money to repay. So you still own the same number of watts, but effectively, you just repay the share capital associated with those watts, essentially. And then after 20 years, if the turbine is still working, do I have no equity? So we expect the wind turbine to last for more than 20 years, so sort of for 25 years, but it just means that the co-op won't have sort of share capital to repay at the end of the wind turbine's operating life. Will the turbine run unencumbered by outside influences, i.e. if the wind blows, it runs and does not get knocked, oh, I've got my cat come see me, does not get knocked offline due to grid demand. So we're not expecting it to be constrained. We can confirm that, but yeah, we're certainly not expecting it to be. So again, there's another question about the share capital repayment. You still have your stake. You still own after the 20 years. So after your share capital has been repaid, you still have that many watts in the wind farm. It's just that your the share capital associated with it has been repaid. Can we sign up to Octopus today and then start the sign up process? Yes, you can. So if you wanted to switch to Octopus today, you could, and then sign up to Ripple later. It would be simpler to do it all in one go, and obviously we can do the sign up for you as part of the sign up process. So yeah, you can be your choice. What happens when wholesale prices go negative? So at the moment, well, not at the moment, as a continual thing, half-hourly wholesale prices go up and down. They're very volatile. When we've seen over the last few months, when it has been very windy, wholesale prices have gone negative, and under Octopus Agile, people have been paid to use electricity when prices are negative. It would be very unlikely that prices are negative for a whole year. So for a half-hour period, for a few hours, they may well go negative, but that wouldn't necessarily. It would bring down the annual electricity price that we would negotiate, but we're not paid on a half-hourly basis. We're paid on an annual basis. So whatever the wholesale price is in a half-hour period, the co-op gets paid its annual price. Obviously, the annual price, in theory, would reflect each half-hour period, but it would be very unlikely for the annual wholesale price to go negative. Any risk of future expenses if there is a big bill? I know that no big bills are predicted. So yeah, and is the site insured? So yes, the site would be insured, and there will be warranties in place as well. Essentially, we've got a contingency in the construction budget. That contingency will then, anything that's not used in construction, and there's quite a healthy contingency in there, will just go into operating contingency. So every year, the directors of the co-op, and obviously we would advise them to say, okay, actually the contingency is extremely big, you just don't need that much contingency in the pot. We could then reduce the amount of money or the price at which the electricity is sold to Octopus for, so your savings would increase, and that would then eat down that contingency, or it may be that it needs to be eaten up a bit, and in which case the operating cost would be increased to sort of build up that contingency. But basically there will be contingency for those sorts of unexpected expenses if they arise. It's a question about somebody who's on an agile tariff and working quite hard with a ground source heat pump. Average price has been £5.60 or £5.61. So essentially, if you were on agile, so on agile, your this is a special Octopus tariff whereby your electricity price can change every half hour. You're told the day before this is what the price is going to be, and then yeah, if the wholesale price is negative, you can be paid to use electricity effectively. So with Ripple, whatever your saving would be from your wind farm, so put Octopus tariff to one side. If your saving from your wind farm 1 month is £10, regardless of whether you're on your agile tariff or Octopus Go or co-op community tariff, that £10 saving would be applied to your bill. So if your agile bill was £20, you would get a £10 saving. If you were on co-op community energy tariff and your bill was £50, your £10 saving would be applied to your £50 bill. So there isn't a link between your consumption and your saving. Your saving is purely driven by the generation from your wind farm. Your usage drives what your gross bill is. So that's it's quite an important distinction. Traditionally, the co-op have never offered 100% renewable tariff. Do they do that now? I'm with Good Energy and wouldn't want to have a less environmentally friendly provider than I've currently got. So co-op has got a community energy tariff, which I think is 100% renewable. I mean, basically, if you're with Ripple and you own 100%, enough of a wind farm to generate 100% of your electricity, that effectively is your own mini renewable energy tariff. And it's something that because you are, because you're part of Ripple, you individually have helped make that wind farm be built. So you get the additionality, you've made a real difference. Lots of traditional green tariffs, they are, they sort of take the wind farm generated from wind farms and solar parks that have been generated, but it's not the tariff themselves that directly leads to those wind farms and solar parks being generated. That's for most green tariffs. But yeah, with Ripple, you would have a you would be making your own little mini really impactful tariff. If the wholesale price increases a lot long term, do the shares become more valuable? No, they don't become more valuable because you cannot trade them. So they're not tradable shares, or you can't transfer them to somebody else. So the shares in the co-op do not increase in value if the electricity price goes up, basically. We might expect the list of people on the waiting list for if somebody goes to America to increase if the wholesale price increases a lot, but no, the value of the shares doesn't increase over time. So somebody's asked, if after 10 years you only have 50% of your original shareholding, it's the share capital, you still have your same number of watts, so you still get, if you still own, well, you would still own whatever, so say you started on 1,000 watts, you might have had 50% of that share capital repaid, but you still own the 1,000 watts, so you would still get the same amount of electricity. The amount of electricity, your watts don't decrease over time, but it's just your share capital. Yeah, Slido would be very handy. I appreciate that. How many lots of £250 are available for sale? Just trying to gauge if I need to act quickly before you go public. So £250 is the minimum. We've had people that ranging right the way up to, I think, 4,500 is the most one so far. Yeah, it's very unlikely, it's not going to sell out before it goes in the next few days, basically. So there's plenty of time. But as I said, roughly, if people buy as much as they need to supply 100% of their electricity consumption, we're looking at roughly sort of just over 2,000 households. We think people won't buy, people are more likely to buy sort of potentially less because we've set the minimum a bit lower. Yes, we can get a copy of the slides. Can you make sure there is customer accessible API as Octopus do, please? So this is something we could we can look at. And basically with our app, what we want to do, we don't want to be precious about how people use the data. We want it to be able to integrate with whatever you want to do. So if you want to use it with your EV Energy app or your Octopus app or whatever, we will make the data available so that you don't have to use the Ripple app in order to be able to access this stuff. Again, somebody's with Octopus, yes, you can stay on your current tariff. It's only new customers which would have to go to co-op. So will you provide regular updates in terms of how close the project is to closing? So yeah, so at the moment we have, I think there's 60 people, we're just over 2%. And then we'll go public, and there'll be press release, and there'll be a big, we haven't obviously pushed it publicly yet at all. Somebody is confused about the difference between Octopus tariffs and co-op tariffs and how they differ. Are they totally different products? So you have two main co-op tariffs. You have co-op 12-month fixed and co-op variable. They are the same price as Octopus 12-month fixed and Octopus variable. There is also a co-op community energy tariff, which isn't available under Ripple at the moment, but you can switch to that later on. Octopus have a larger number of different tariffs. So they have Octopus Go, which is more designed around EV drivers, so you get cheap electricity at night. You have Octopus Agile. This is this half-hourly tariff where you need a smart meter, and your tariff, your electricity price can change every half hour. Those aren't available under Co-op. If you wanted to be on those tariffs, but only those two Octopus tariffs, you can switch to Co-op and then switch to those tariffs. Is the wind farm benefit applied annually or monthly? So the savings are applied to your bill monthly. So effectively, the savings that are applied to your September bill will relate to the generation from your wind farm in August. So there's a month. We look at what the generation is 1 month, and then we apply those savings the following month. And again, if you switch to another supplier the following month, it would just there's a few weeks of catch up, but it would just, the savings would just get applied to your final bill with the last one. If tax is due, is this because the savings are considered income by HMRC? So we can't advise on tax. We understand that the repayment of share capital wouldn't be considered income, but the savings above that could be considered interest. We'll have available on your customer dashboard, you'll be able to sort of download an annual statement, and that will show how much of your, if you had £100 saving in a year, it would say what the breakdown is, that was 60% repayment of share capital, say, so £60 repayment of share capital, £40 additional benefit, and you could then use that for your tax return if you needed to. So you have an interest allowance. If you're not above that interest allowance, you don't need to. It doesn't necessarily need to count, but obviously we can't advise on that, but we will make annual statements available. Is one risk that if you're tied into a small set of suppliers, they might not be the most competitive? So like I said, we want to have a range of suppliers. Octopus are one of the most competitive in the market, and they have the best customer service record. I think they're the only supplier which has been a Which recommended supplier for the last 3 years. So they've got a fantastic, absolutely fantastic record with their customer service. So yeah, we want to have a range essentially. How does the Ripple saving apply to dual fuel customers, especially if the saving is more than my electricity bill? Does this discount affect my gas bill too? So we would expect it to be unlikely that, given that we're putting a cap on how much you can own, so you can only own as much of the wind farm as up to 120% of your electricity consumption. So you can own as much as you need plus a little bit more, and the savings are sort of roughly up to around sort of 20% on your electricity bill. So the savings are unlikely to make your electricity bill go negative, in which case it will be eating into your gas bill. But effectively, the savings would just be applied to your account. What happens to my investment at the end of the life of the wind turbine? So this relates back to that share capital point. So your initial your investment will essentially have been that capital will have been repaid over the first 20 years of the wind farm's operating life. So there wouldn't be any sort of investment left to repay at that point. How does the Co-op avoid curtailment? So power is always generated when there is wind. So this we can go back to. I don't think it's like to be subject to huge amounts of curtailment, but we would have to confirm that basically. Thank you for your time. Let's go. Yeah, we are just very, very keen to get moving. And when we could send that email out this week, it was quite incredible. So this is a question about Agile and whether or not it can reduce electricity costs at peak time, given that it's quite often windy at peak time. It can't, no. So potentially when we get more sophisticated pricing structures, but certainly it can't at the moment. Yeah, we will be putting as much of this up as we possibly can. what would be Ripple if we're offering in heat batteries? So as I said, we've got an MOU in place with SunAmp. We're still, we've just been so focused on getting the first project of Greg Vather launched. We'll be developing our relationship with SunAmp over the next few months, basically. So we haven't. We want to be able to, provide a really great package to our customers, so you can buy an electric heat battery and power it with a bit of your wind farm. But we don't. We're not there yet, and it'll be a few months before we've got that sorted. Is it windy where the wind turbine is sited? Yes, it's pretty windy. So there's it's next to a existing site. So yeah, it's got pretty good wind. That's the API info. That's fine. Fantastic. Somebody's already signed up. Yeah, fantastic. Somebody else just signed up. Is it a one-off £250 or an annual £250 minimum investment? So the upfront cost, so you can go onto our website and you can put in your electricity consumption, and you'll get the cost of buying your bit of the wind farm. Obviously, we only have to build the wind farm once. That wind farm will last for 25 years. So it's a one-off cost. So that is your investment. That's your bit of getting the wind farm built. We've had this is another question. We've had a lot of questions about is this cost an ongoing cost? No, you pay for your bit of the wind farm. That is your share of getting that wind farm built. It's only built once, and it lasts for 25 years. So yeah, it's a one-off payment. Has the location of the next wind farm been decided? That'd be telling. We've got one that we've got exclusivity on already, which is, we're hoping that will be later in the year. Fantastic. I don't know about East Anglia. So yeah, payback time on investment is about 14 to 15 years. Yes, that's what we're expecting. If I move home, is it portable? Yes, it's fully portable. So as I said, you have to move home within England, Wales and Scotland, but it's fully portable within there. It's Northern Ireland, we can't do that. We're working, we are working with ESB, Ireland's largest utility, to see if we can potentially do this in Ireland as well, but certainly at the moment you can't. Does the share capital include the decommissioning costs, or who pays that? So the decommissioning costs will be, basically there'll be a fund will be built up, and then towards the end of the lifetime, we will work out that decommissioning fund, is it sufficient, particularly given the scrap value that you might get for the wind farm. Do we need to increase it or decrease it towards it? So that'll be sort of the last 5-7 years of the wind farm's expected operating life. Can we visit our wind turbine? That's a good question. It's on private land, so I don't think the farmer would probably appreciate lots of people there, but we'll be looking at how we can potentially do that, whether it would be an open day or whatever, but we'll have to get back to you on that one. Can you have 50% in the pilot, 50% in the next project and keep going? Yes, you can. Obviously up to the 120% of your consumption, but yes, the idea is that people can own a little mini portfolio. You might have a bit of a wind farm, bit of a solar park, bit of a hydro project maybe. You can just it's really, really flexible, basically. Will there be bigger revenues from larger scale turbines? So generally bigger turbines, so much taller turbines, more powerful machines, yeah, could potentially generate electricity more cheaply. So there may be there wouldn't necessarily be bigger revenues, but you could certainly fit more people in for a certain per turbine. The bigger the turbine, the more electricity it generates, so the more people you could fit in, and there would be a sort of lower upfront cost as well. Can landlords use the scheme as a means of reducing carbon footprint? So it would depend on who pays the electricity bill. So at the moment, no, but we are, another thing that we're working on is ways that we can get Ripple to work for commercial customers. So there's, yeah, the answer to that is no, you can't do it as a landlord yet, but we are looking, we're even looking at working potentially with like social housing providers and housing associations. You can't do it yet, but yeah, watch this space, but not too frequently. It's not going to happen very soon, but it's something that we want to happen eventually. Can you put a webcam on top? We would love to. I don't think the planning permission would allow us to put a webcam on. We have tried to see if there's anywhere where we could have one sort of nearby, but we need to look into that. Will you be investing in storage projects in the future? So storage is something that we haven't looked at in great detail. We've looked at it a bit. The model wouldn't, or we don't think Ripple sort of standard ownership model would work for storage. It would be more of a sort of standard sort of commercial product, but yeah, but it's something that we are looking at it, but again, certainly not for this project. And yeah, we're looking at it's something for the future. Are Ripple looking at generation outside of wind farms, solar or hydro? Yes, we are. So we are looking at any fuel-free technology, so not biomass, because as soon as you introduce a fuel, you introduce fuel price risk. So when you build a wind farm, you build a solar park, or you have a hydro project, you know what the operating costs of that wind farm or solar project will be for its 25, potentially 80-year lifetime in the case of hydro, which gives customers confidence that they know what the costs are going to be. As soon as you introduce a fuel, you don't know what the cost of whatever straw or wood will be in 2 years' time, let alone 20 years' time. So you just don't have the same level of price stability that you get with a fuel-free technology. So yeah, no fuel-free, no fueled technologies, but we are looking outside of wind. Yeah, and solar is the obvious next one. Did you answer the decommissioning question? Yes, I did. So there'll be a decommissioning fund essentially that gets built up, and then at the end of the turbine's life, they'll look at how much would be the scrap value, and they would just take that off and sort of see if there's a bit more, if the decommissioning fund is too big, too small, and what it would need to be. Will you invest to support public EV charging? So we wouldn't. We're not sort of getting involved in public EV charging. For now, there's lots of people in that market, and it's really exciting what's happening. But that's not something that we've got any plans to do at this point in time. So I think that is all the questions, and it's just coming up to 8 o'clock. So if there are any other questions, obviously feel free to email us. And also, if, as I said, we would love to know what you find most exciting about Ripple and why you want to take part in it. So anything, just email info@rippleenergy.com. That comes straight through to me. And yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, so we will be doing future sessions. So this is just for pre-registered customers. And yeah, we will be doing more sessions like this. So we, the questions that we get are very similar. So there's a wide range, but the same questions come up quite a lot. So this will be put on YouTube. We want people to be able to see, the webinars, and sometimes it's easier for me to explain it in person than it is to sort of explain it in words on the website. Yeah, so any savings post 20 years, yeah, the longer the turbines can last, obviously the greater your savings would be, and they could last very, very decent amount of time. Okay, yeah, so there will be more, and yeah, and then obviously on the website there is a lot of information. The share offer document sets out, please do read that before you buy any of your shares. It sets out all the information that you need. It sets out the risks, the benefits, how it all works in more detail. There's also loads of FAQs on our website as well. So yeah, do have a good read of everything that's there, because there is a lot of information. It is a lot to take in one go, but yeah, that's why we're trying to sort of break it up a bit. Fantastic. Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much, and yeah, thank you for your time and listening. And yeah, there will be more webinars to come in future. Fantastic. All right. Thank you. I'll end it there then. Okay. Bye bye.